across the globe. In our spotlight, we're going to introduce you to the Aussie band behind the insanely catchy song Trojans. Atlas Genius is on the show. In our performance slot, the sounds of London invade the Troubadour as we present the U.S. TV debut of Wolfgang. But first, we're going to stay stateside and head over to Santa Monica's Shore Bar for a sit-down with my old buddy Citizen Cope. Raised in Texas, Mississippi, and D.C., Cope's sound is a mix of blues, soul, and folk that's found its way onto TV, film, and most recently, his fifth full-length record, which is entitled One Lovely Day. For more, here's my time with Citizen Cope.
She won't give in. She won't crack a smile or regret. Well, she won't give in.
I mean, not only are you one of my favorite artists, one of my favorite people. This is how I have to rekindle our friendship, is to book you on my show.
That's what happens. Yes, I'm glad I have you.
I'm glad you're here. A lot of that literal storytelling, these street stories, is really in a lot of your music. Is that because you moved around so much as a kid, or your influences?
I think I always liked songs that had a little, you know, like even like Bad Leroy Brown, or like the storytelling in Lucille, you know, the country song by, you know, Kenny Rogers.
So a beginning, a middle, and end, or a fable.
Yeah, the idea of somebody going to a bar and seeing a woman and telling the story where he's having a drink with her, and then this big man comes in and breaks down and says, "You picked a fine time to leave me, Lucille." And
right.
like coming from that angle as a songwriter, as the person that's sitting in the bar and watching this go down. And
that all appeals to you.
I just think that it's just brilliant songwriting. Together we go walk to the river, stand with the family, move to the sounds of the band from Atlantis. One lovely day, one lovely day.
You know, we used to hang out back in the day in New York a little bit. That was an interesting time. You know, it was a post 9/11 New York. You had your first record coming out.
Yeah.
How did you end up in New York at that time?
Well, I was living in D.C. for a while, and I kind of got to the point where I was spending a lot of time on myself and writing songs and developed my craft as a songwriter and a producer.
Was it a tough move to New York?
No, it was something that, like, I got my first deal and it didn't work out, and then my former girlfriend's father was a sculptor and a painter, and he had said there were so many people with talent in New York that they respected other people with talent, and that it was a good place for artists to go to develop. I felt that to be really true. Like, when I moved from D.C., I felt like I'd been kind of walking in quicksand for a long time. I come from a place on my man named Mr. Pace.
How long did you live in D.C.?
I moved when I was like 6 years old. My mother got a job up there, and I'd come from Mississippi, so it was quite a bit different.
So a culture shock for you to go to D.C.
Yeah, it was two different cultures completely. You know, a lot of my family's from the South, and then moving to D.C. and going to school there and all that, I learned a lot of different things about people.
Right. Ethnicities, cultures, music, all of that stuff.
Yeah, and then I felt the same way when I went down there. I'd hear some country music, or I'd see the kids playing, you know, the high school football phenomenon and the religious side and the implications of that and the racism. And then you had the D.C. thing where it was predominantly not dominated by, you know, white culture.
You're describing your music too now. You know, now it's starting to make sense a little bit about you lyrically. I mean, did all this stuff at this age, when you moved to D.C., this exposure to all of this stuff, is this the fuel for the writings?
I just took every, you know, the storytelling in the country and the revolutionary kind of rebel spirit of hip-hop, where I felt like some of these guys could actually say something in their songs as opposed to just writing about love or something. Back in the day, people really had, you know, a cultural and social kind of awareness to the music.
Chuck Brown, godfather of go-go music, we were lucky enough to have him on the show before he passed. What did he mean to you?
He was just an influence and a mentor, and like I gave him my first demo tape early on, and you know, he listened to it and called me and kind of told me what was going to happen to me, including the good and the bad. And when I started making records, and I was like, there's some way I got to pay tribute, write a song, and I've written the songs like One Lovely Day, and I thought, man, Chuck could really play this record. I called him up and sent it to him, and he said he listened to it, he really liked the song. Like, he wanted to do a go-go version of it. You know, I was like, oh man, that'd be awesome.
For me, I'm such a music fan from the West Coast. Like, go-go hit me out of the blue, you know? Like, the go-go thing, it's so indigenous to that region, you know what I mean?
Right.
And you're sort of born out of that, too, you know?
It's been something that's been able to live without mainstream and all this stuff, and it's very, like, you know, it's street music.
Right.
It's real stories, and there's really neighborhood love.
I mean, let's talk about you now as an artist. I mean, you've seen the business change, be turned upside down. You've been signed to multiple labels. You survived the Titanic of the record business, you know? I mean,
I always like to say when the economy went down, I was already used to it because the record company had all fallen, you know, 3 or 4 years prior to that.
why is it everybody to this day, when I play your music, they go, who's this? That guy's great. Do you feel like you should be bigger than you are?
You always have that thing, but I think that I found out earlier a lot of that's other people's expectations. You know, well, I gotta sell 1 million records because otherwise I can't make another one. And you start thinking like that. And I think the most important thing is getting that record out. And I always wanted to be able to make records so that I could continue making records. I never thought I would be an entertainer, never like aspired to be a singer. When I started writing songs, I thought of myself as more of a songwriter, producer, and then the songs were so personal that I was like, nobody's going to be able to sing this stuff, you know, except for me.
Long overdue and a ton of fun for me personally just to get to hang with my buddy Citizen Cope. And